All right, so I want to add a couple of points to our literal interpretation of the allegory of the cave that weren't kind of obviously made in that claymation video you just watched. And if you didn't watch that claymation video, you need to stop this one right now, go back up to the video above this one and watch it because it's super cool. Kind of creepy, but super cool. All right, so we want to get a handle on some of the important literal events and features of the allegory of the cave so that we can then explore their metaphorical implications as we dig deeper into the allegory of the cave and what its symbolic significance is in some lectures coming up. All right, so first thing we got to do, suspend disbelief. This is a thought experiment. And thought experiments are these kind of what-if scenarios. Imagine this were the situation that we were in. What would be implied by that? And that's kind of what Plato's doing here. He's trying to get us to realize, come to some conclusions using an obviously impractical, impossible scenario. Okay, so we're going to have to suspend our disbelief. We're not going to ask questions like, how did these people locked up at the bottom of the cave get food? How did the chains get adjusted as they grew up? Because ostensibly they've been there their entire lives. We're not going to ask any questions like that. We're just going to assume that everything that Plato is describing for us is in fact the case. And then we'll look at the implications. Were that actually true? All right, so we've got some number of men who have spent their entire lives in the bottom of this cave. They have never experienced anything except what they can see right in front of them on the wall of this cave. And I suppose as much as they can turn their heads from side to side. They've been chained up their whole lives. They have no idea what's behind them, even if there is if they have an awareness of behind them, right? So think about that. If all they've ever experienced is what's in front of them, why would it ever occur to them that there's anything behind them? That behind them would be something they would have never even experienced. But of course, we know from Plato's description that there are in fact things behind them. One of them is a fire that's burning, and people are walking behind those chained up prisoners carrying different kinds of what we might think of as like puppets, like a bird or a horse, or you see here a vase and a horse, and I think this is supposed to be a bird. And of course the light from the fire is hitting those puppets and creating these shadows on the walls. And that's all these guys at the bottom of the cave knows, are these shadows and then the sounds that they hear that kind of echo off the front of the wall. Now, of course, our hero gets unchained. And what's important to take note is that when he gets unchained, he's confused. He suddenly looks behind him and he sees, well, for one, there was a behind him. And there are these things like, oh my gosh, there are these puppets. What are those? What's this fire? It hurts his eyes. And we can understand that, right? It's like when you go into a room after you've been asleep and it's dark and you turn on the light and it's like, whoa, it's like that hurts, right? This guy's kind of having that same experience with the fire. And so this person who's unchained him is now trying to get him to leave the cave. But of course, this is difficult because this person has never walked before. So he's having to do something new, and it's painful, and it's uphill. But nonetheless, he's kind of being dragged out of the cave, difficult though it is, and eventually he gets out into the real world. And he's like, whoa, this is a trip. He's seeing not only different things, he's seeing things differently. And he sees that, wow, there's birds and there's horses, and I can connect those to some of those images I saw on the walls, and I can connect those to some of these puppets that were creating the images. It's like, these are actual horses. These are actual birds and trees. And I can even see that all of this is possible. I can see all of this, that the world exists in a way for me to perceive because of the light from the sun. The light from the sun is making all of this possible in this really complicated world that he's now a part of. And an important thing to keep in mind here is that he then realizes, oh my gosh, my friends down at the bottom of the cave, they have no idea what's really going on in this world. All they know is what they've been what they've been watching as they sit in front of this wall. And he feels this sense of obligation. I gotta go get news to my friends that the world is not all that they think it is, or the world is much more than they think it is. And so he zooms back down into the cave, and of course what happens to him is what happens to you and I when we go from really bright light into a really dark room quickly, is his eyes don't adjust. And so he can't even kind of make his way around, and he can't see the shadows on the wall. He can't see his friends. His eyes are still adjusting. And so he's trying to explain to his friends, hey, I went out and I saw this world. Check it out. It's, I saw this and I saw this and I saw this. And they're like, this dude's crazy. Like, I don't have any, it would be like if you and I, somebody comes up to us and they start talking to us about when they were captured by aliens, and be like, okay, right on. And that's kind of how they would interpret this guy, is he's talking crazy here. He's not making any sense. We know what the world is. It's right here in front of us. This is the world we know and we've experienced. And he's doing the crazy talk. So they immediately become a little afraid of him. But they also notice that he can't see because his eyes haven't adjusted. And they're so now frightened by this person who was once one of their own, and was once very dependable, who got unchained and is now returned, and he appears to have had his eyes taken from him, and he appears to have gone insane. And so they make a pact among themselves, these chained up people, like, look, anybody comes down here and tries to unchain us, we're killing him. Because we don't want to be taken to wherever our friend was taken and have our eyes removed and made to be insane. All right? So that's the literal sort of points that I want you to keep in mind as we move forward. And now we'll start to explore some of the metaphorical implications of the story.